This week, everything I couldn't cover because of the disaster of last week, and Grant's march towards victory. But the first thing this week isn't in Virginia or Mississippi, but is instead in Arkansas. If you cast your mind back, way back, to the final week of April, you'll remember that Confederate General John Marmaduke unsuccessfully moved into Missouri before being pushed back to Arkansas, where he was chased by a Union division. Brigadier General William Vanderveer of the Union knows that Marmaduke has the high ground, that the enemy are dug in, that he has inexperienced men, but he thinks his superior numbers will hold. He has a division numbering 10,000 men, and Marmaduke has only 2,000. He begins his march against Marmaduke's rear guard and is held at bay. That was May 1st, and over the night, the rebel artillery was moved across the river that Marmaduke is trying to cross. And on the 2nd, further Union assaults were repulsed at a great cost. And Marmaduke was able to slip away. The Union suffered 120 casualties. 23 killed, 44 wounded, and 53 captured. To the Confederates, 210. 30 killed, 60 wounded, and 120 missing. Marmaduke's hope for a defensive is crippled. He comes back further into the state. Now, further south, along the Mississippi River. What a gallant stream. On the 30th of April, I left you off with Major General Francis Blair's division in the Battle of Snyder's Bluff. On the 1st of May, it continued, with Union gunboats opening devastating fire and damaging the Confederate positions. Orders soon come in to Major General William Tecumseh Sherman, commander of the 15th Corps, to stop his advance at Snyder's Bluff and move further south. Why are they moving? Why to Brainsburg, Mississippi? Because after so many months of waiting, Grant has found his crossing. He has moved already 20,000 of his men of McClellan's 13th Corps and General Logan's division from McPherson's 17th Corps, with the rest of McPherson's Corps just waiting behind them. This is great news. The rebels' greatest defense is no trench or fort, but the Mississippi River, and it has now been circumvented. Though Major General Ulysses S. Grant, the Union Army of the Tennessee's commander in the area, doesn't have time to celebrate. He needs to break out of his beachhead, or he'll be defeated on the banks of the raging Mississippi. Before him is 6,000 Confederates of 4 brigades under Brigadier General John S. Bowen. McClellan quickly advances against Bowen on the night of the 1st. This is done under the 14th Division, with Brigadier General Eugene A. Carr commanding. He breaks up his 2 brigades, with one advancing against the enemy directly, which is not ideal as the terrain will break them up, but the other brigade is ideal. It will engage the flank of the enemy. Carr's men engage the enemy, and with their luck, right as they are breaking the Confederates, they receive reinforcements from the 12th Division under Brigadier General Alvin P. Hovey, who joins in the battle and forces the enemy to withdraw. McClellan takes the time to brag, but Grant points out the enemy has regrouped at defenses further away. The 10th Division then joins in under the command of Brigadier General Andrew J. Smith. They charge the enemy. But are soon flanked by a Confederate brigade of Missourians. McClellan is able to repulse the rebels and take the victory. Further north, his 9th Division under Brigadier General Peter J. Osterhaus is able to break the rebels. The Confederates are forced back. Grant has secured his beachhead. Then, for flag news, the Confederacy comes up with a new flag design on the 1st. It's named the Stainless Banner. It's based on the battle flag with a giant white space around it. It uses a 1-to-2 proportion, and I don't have anything else to say about it. Back to the west, though this isn't Mississippi, but Alabama. Colonel Abel Strait has been raiding the northern half of the Cotton State. Though things haven't been going well, as to say. His men are exhausted, and Brigadier General Nathan Bedford Forrest is hot on his heels. They both stop at Cedar Bluff, and Forrest with 500 men encircles Strait's 1,700. The Union colonel thinks he's outnumbered, and goes to Forrest to negotiate surrender. Nathan keeps up this deceit by having his men circle around a hill to appear larger in number than they actually are. Straight surrenders his arms, realizes that he has force 3-1, and demands them back. He is denied. Then the end of another raid, though thankfully much more successful. Colonel Grierson started out as a music teacher. I'm sure the trumpets sound for him as he enters Baton Rouge on the 2nd of May. Which perfectly segues back into the Vicksburg campaign. Grant now has an interesting predicament before him. Directly to his north is Vicksburg, his main objective, but to his east is Jackson, Mississippi, a major junction with the Great Southern and Great Northern Railroads crossing there. Can he move against Vicksburg without Jackson? No, he can't. Sherman's 15th Corps is to cover the left flank and move towards Auburn. McClernand's 13th Corps is to hold the center and secure the Big Black River. Then there's General McPherson's 17th Corps, which is to advance on Raymond. James McPherson is a good soldier. Compared to the other two corps commanders, is inexperienced, especially with such a huge number of men. Nevertheless, he is trusted with holding Raymond. Grant takes the opportunity to send a final message to General-in-Chief Henry Halleck. As I shall communicate with Grand Gulf no more, except it becomes necessary to send a train with heavy escort, you may not hear from me again for several days. Halleck will no doubt be enraged and countermand General Grant's order, but that will take too long to reach him, and by then, Vicksburg should be his. The Confederates are also communicating. On the 9th, CSA President Jefferson Davis sends word to full General Joseph E. Johnston. He is to move to Jackson, Mississippi, immediately and take over the Confederate defenses there. Johnston responds he is sick, and slowly limps over to Vicksburg. He then sends word to a brigade commander, Brigadier General John Gregg, to move his 3,000 or so man brigade to Raymond, as the Union brigade is suspected in the nearby town of Utica. Instead of a brigade, the Union at Utica is the 17th Corps of 10,000 men under Major General James McPherson. Gregg sends forward one of his regiments to engage the Union and have the rest of his men enfilade the enemy. He soon realizes that he isn't facing off against a small unit, but instead a great force. The 7th Texas Infantry is the first to engage the Union, sending a volley into them. Gregg sends forward two of his regiments to flank the enemy. But the Union moves into a battle line, meaning that these two regiments don't hit the flank, but instead the front of a Union brigade. This throws the Confederates into confusion. The two sides begin to move into parallel battle lines, but are unable to fully do so because of the winding terrain. Major General John Blackjack Logan takes his division and breaks through the enemy. The Union wins the battle, but at a steep cost. 68 dead, 341 wounded, and 37 missing for a total of 446 casualties. Confederates have it worse, though. 73 killed, 252 wounded, and 190 missing for a total of 515. Things aren't over at Vicksburg yet. There is so much confusion. The Union was engaged not on their left flank closest to the city, but on their right furthest away. Where is the enemy? The Confederates are even worse. Full General Johnston arrives at Jackson on the night of the 13th, but his railroad connections have been cut. I am too late. Johnston sends word to Lieutenant General Pemberton, who is with the main force in Vicksburg, to attack Grant. This is risky. If the Union learns of such a movement, they can move their Army of the Tennessee into Vicksburg and take the valuable city without a fight. Worse for the Confederates, their cavalry is not with them, instead chasing Grierson, so they don't have good knowledge of Grant's movements, as shown by their blunder at Raymond. Therefore, the Vicksburg garrison splits, leaving a good portion of their force in the city, and the rest move towards the Big Black River. But they're too far away to support Johnston in the next action. The garrison of Jackson is retreating with Brigadier General John Gregg's brigade in the rear. This isn't known, as Johnston had sent word to Pemberton asking him to assault Grant and promised he would be in support. This is just to look good for the official records. The Army of the Tennessee sends out McPherson's 17th Corps to the north and Sherman's 15th Corps to the south to take the city. The rear guard meets with the Union soldiers outside of the city, but rain soon stalls the battle. The Confederates send out their mounted infantry against Sherman's column, but they're soon obliterated. Once the rain stops, McPherson sends his 7th Division under Brigadier General Marcellus M. Crocker, love that name, to take on the Confederates. The rebel pickets are sent back to their fortifications, which are strong. Johnston's cannons open up on Crocker's division, and for a while hold them at bay. Crocker was taking heavy casualties, nearing 300, when he decides to charge the enemy's position. His men go over the walls with bayonets and seize the rebels' positions. And 7 cannons with them. Sherman faces no great opposition and seizes 10 cannons. The Union seizes 70 cannons at the cost of 300 total casualties. The Confederates 845. With this, the Union can turn west and seize Vicksburg. There lies a great victory, the end of the Confederate West, and the future of the Union. Then there is Sickles. He remembers that night, the one of the withdrawal from Chancellorsville, how he had told the military men he was a politician, not a general, and while it made military sense to advance, politically it would be hard to defend. His corps had suffered 4,039 casualties, a great number lost. Though, in the wake of defeat is opportunity. Sickles is rightly praised for his actions from the Herald, a newspaper that spent decades destroying his reputation. General Sickles displayed that quickness of perception, that promptness in action, and that never-failing self-possession which distinguished the great commander. We therefore would call the attention of President Lincoln to General Sickles as the man for this position. Further reports come in of what the men of Stonewall's Corps think of Sickles. We'll hang him, god damn him, when we catch him. That's where the week ends. Except it doesn't. On the 10th, major news. Lieutenant General Thomas J. Stonewall Jackson succumbs to his wounds. His final words? A few moments before he died, he cried out in his delirium, "Order A.P. Hill to prepare for action. Pass infantry to the front rapidly. Tell Major Hawks." Then stopped, leaving the sentence unfinished. Presently a smile of ineffable sweetness spread itself over his pale face, and he said quietly and with an expression as if of relief, "Let us cross over the river and rest under the shade of the trees." The bullets are removed from Stonewall, and the Confederacy learns it was them who struck their commander down. Lee tells the chaplain right before Stonewall's death, "Give General Jackson my affectionate regards and say to him he has lost his left arm, but I my right." Upon learning of how Jackson succumbed to his wounds, he tells his cook, "William, I have lost my right arm. I'm bleeding at the heart." The man who rescued the South at the First Battle of Bull Run, defeated the Union in the Valley, drove them from the peninsula, repulsed them at Second Bull Run, held the line at Antietam, stood firm at Fredericksburg, and won the Confederacy its greatest victory at Chancellorsville, is gone. Some say that this makes Chancellorsville worth it, and I say, no! Are you foolish? He is one commander, not the whole damn army of Northern Virginia. I know you like Hooker and Sickles, but you can't go reporting such nonsense. You're a trusted week-by-week speaker, Jonathan. Hey! Who messed with a teleprompter? No matter. Not angry. This week was a great one for the Union, and I asked, how could America survive the loss at Chancellorsville? But now I ask, can the Confederacy survive the loss of Jackson and the fall of Vicksburg? Hello, it's the entire Civil War week by... Oh, God. Hello, it's the entire Civil War week-by-week team here, and things are returning to normal. Well, not at all. I mean, Vicksburg is heating up. It's just I don't have to deal with Chancellorsville anymore. And I mean, the Ivan Turchin video came out, but who knows how many specials I'm going to be able... Things are changing around here, and hopefully towards the better. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy it, could you please like and subscribe? Unless you're already subscribed, please don't hit that button again. Right now you should be seeing a recommended video, and if you want even more Civil War content, a playlist. Probably here. I'm not good with directions. And I hope to see you next week.